When God created woman for man, it was probably the greatest or one of the greatest gifts that God gave to man, that helper. 12 years ago, I promised my wife, till death do us part. 41 years ago, Barry promised Kathy, till death do them part. And 60 years ago, John promised Kathy, till death do you part. It's a lifelong commitment. A commitment that doesn't quit when times get tough. Marriage is something you have to work at. It's something we work at daily. And a marriage is only successful when you have God as the center of your relationship and when both parties are willing to work at it. Through the ups and the downs, in sickness and in health, for richer or for poorer. But the question I'd like to pose to you this morning is this: do we have a lifelong commitment to God that way? You see, my marriage to Amanda does not only exist in the confines of our home. My marriage to Amanda exists whether we're together or apart. My marriage to Amanda exists whether I'm here and she's there. My marriage exists to Amanda at the restaurants or at the gas station, at the grocery store, in Kentucky, Wyoming, or California. But you see, oftentimes our relationship and our lifelong commitment to God only exists within the confines of this building. We cease to have that commitment when we are beyond these walls. We've talked about the commitment to God in our homes, the commitment parents have to their children. We've talked about relationship evangelism and how going beyond the walls is about people, how we're charged to be bringers, teachers, and keepers. Last week, Jason gave a charge to our teens for them to go beyond the walls, to establish a mature faith. And this morning, Andy will continue our series on having a lifelong commitment, a commitment to God that doesn't retire. A commitment to God that's till death does us part. Andy, preach the word to us.
As we continue our series of making a lifelong commitment outside the walls, let me say first how much Pam and I enjoy working with our seniors. There are numerous references in the Bible addressing Christians' commitment in various aspects of life, to our families, to our neighbors, our employers, the church, our health, and in all things that we do and say. But the Bible also teaches that the chief commitment of our lives is to God Himself. Jesus said, "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the great and first commandment." Total commitment to God means that Jesus is our sole authority, our guiding light, and our unerring compass. Being committed to Christ means being fruitful. It means being a servant. Our goal is simple and to the point. For me to live is Christ. To accomplish this goal, we need to commit ourselves to Bible study so that we will know what the Lord expects of us. 2 Timothy 2:15 says, "Do your best to present yourselves to God as one approved, a workman who does not need to be ashamed and who correctly handles the word of truth." Acts 2:42 says, they devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching and to fellowship and to the breaking of bread and to prayer. We need to be committed to prayer. 1 Thessalonians 5:16 says, be joyful always, pray continually, give thanks in all circumstances, for this is God's will for you in Christ Jesus. We need to be committed to Christ, as Galatians 2:20 says, I have been crucified with Christ, and I no longer live, but Christ lives in me. The life I live in the body, I live by faith in the Son of God, who loved me and gave himself for me. Galatians 6:9 encourages us not to be weary in doing good, for we need to stay focused on Christ and be committed to our tasks. Our seniors are involved in many ministries in the church: benevolence, prison work, correspondence courses, and many that we don't ever hear about, like those who volunteer in nursing homes and hospitals, those who drive people to doctor's appointments. All these activities show our commitment to serving God. Dr. Jamie Knapp, in his book, Understanding the Generations, tells about some of the attributes of the different generations. The builder generation, those 75 to 93, is one that repeatedly sacrificed their personal desires for the good of the group. They are a group that is extremely loyal to their church. They respect authority. They were thrifty and frugal. The baby boomers, those of us 56 to 74, were raised in a very religious era. The majority of them went to church. They prayed before meals. They recited prayer at the beginning of each school day. So where are we today? The church of today has a strong need for consistency. We have some members who come to church, they read their Bible and pray regularly, and then mysteriously disappear for several months. They will come back, but only to disappear again. These folks will never grow spiritually. Jesus said, "Remain in me, and I will remain in you." No branch can bear fruit by itself. It must remain in the vine. Neither can you bear fruit unless you remain in me. John 15. That is the secret of spiritual growth, to remain. To remain means to stay in a given place. For believers, it means to maintain unbroken fellowship with God. It is regularity, it is consistency, and results in producing lasting fruit. Psalm 92, verse 14 says, "They will still bear fruit in old age." It's the responsibility of older Christians to continue to be fruitful. In Galatians 5:22, we're given a list of the type of fruit that we ought to be producing. Love. Love for our brethren. Love for the lost souls outside the walls of our building. And love for our brethren who have drifted away and need someone to guide them back. Joy. Joy in associating with other Christians. Joy in what God has done for you. Joy in living for Him. peace in knowing God is in control and that we can put our trust in Him, patience in waiting for the Lord to return, and patient dealing with each other's faults. Be kind to one another. Be good to everyone. Be gentle and faithful, and maintain self-control. We are not to grow weary in doing good, as our reward will come in due time. As Brother Derek read this morning, 2 Timothy or Titus chapter 2. You must teach what is in accord with sound doctrine. Teach the older men to be temperate, worthy of respect, self-controlled, sound in the faith, in love, and in endurance. Likewise, teach the older women to be reverent in the way they live, not to be slanderers or addicted to much wine, but to teach what is good. Then they can train the younger women to love their husbands and children, to be self-controlled and pure, to be busy at home, to be kind, and to be subject to their husbands, so that no one will malign the word of God. Similarly, encourage the young men to be self-controlled. In everything, set them an example by doing what is good. In your teaching, show integrity, seriousness, and soundness of speech that cannot be condemned, so that those who oppose you may be ashamed because they've nothing bad to say about us. This text lets us know that older Christians are to pass on their knowledge to the generations that follow them. Older men are to set an example so that they are worthy of respect. This respect will help draw those outside the walls because it is something that is noticed. In the same way, older women are to be an example so that by their influence they can teach the younger women how to be good wives and mothers. This kind of respect will help show the world what a good marriage is and how to cope with disappointment and problems. We have a responsibility to teach and share our skills with the generations that follow us. We need to be involved with the younger children. We need to volunteer in their Sunday school classes. We need to chaperone activities with them. We need to get to know them and their parents. We need to be a consistent presence within the church family. To be able to share our witness with others, we need to get to know one another better so that we can encourage each other to bear fruit. How many of you young people know Marie Harvick, Bob Simmons, Ann Furr, Wilma Mullen, or Betty Ray? And then how many of you seniors know Eli Kester, Ben Moss, Ben Nanny? We have a responsibility as keepers to get to know each other. And while it may seem overwhelming to try to do that, take it a little bit at a time. I would challenge you to start with one person or a family. Pray for them. Make an effort to talk to them, get to know them. Spend time with them. Eat with them at the Wednesday night fellowship meal. Just visit in the hallway. Dustin told me about a congregation he attended where the seniors adopted a young person or family. And that gave him a good opportunity to get to know those people and has created a lifelong friendship. As grandparents, when our grandchildren are grown or far away like mine, or that we don't even have any, why not be a grandparent to a family at church? I've observed Barry and Kathy Maxwell and Dean Conyer are great examples of this. While it encourages the younger ones, the more mature ones get a boost from their energy and their enthusiasm. And younger brothers and sisters, please don't hesitate to make a move to visit with us old folks, or maybe even to offer help if it's needed. 1 Peter 5, verse 8 tells us to be self-controlled and alert. Your enemy, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion looking for someone to devour. The devil uses many tactics to keep us on edge. He will use our pride. He will lie to us. He will cause us to doubt. He will try and keep us in ignorance. He will try and make us discouraged and afraid. We need to put our trust in God, and He will give us the courage we need to move forward. We live in a technological age, and it's often a challenge for us seniors. I know it is for me. Seniors, it's good to keep on learning. Ask one of the young people to help you with your cell phone, or your iPad, or your computer. And young people, please be patient with us. Chances are you'll have to show us more than once. We need more interaction amongst the generations. Some of our seniors have a lot of skills that they're willing to pass on, like knitting and crocheting and quilting and cooking, woodworking, and the like. Many of our seniors are lonely, but that's all the more reason why we need to reach outside these walls and invite someone to come to one of our church activities. We need to focus on other people and not worry so much about ourselves. We can be kind to the workers in the nursing home or in the hospital when we go to visit our friends. You never know how a small kindness will influence those outside the walls. We can focus on being kind to the waitress who got our food order messed up, or to the store checker who's frustrated because of a rude customer. You might even remember to invite them to church. It takes courage to talk to others about Jesus. These types of kindnesses are noticed by those outside these walls, and it gives us an opportunity to share the good news. Matthew 9:37 says, "Then he said to his disciples, 'The harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. Ask the Lord of the harvest, therefore, to send out workers into his harvest field.'" Folks, we have been praying for years for the Lord to send us workers because the harvest is plentiful. But I believe the Lord has sent workers. Never before in history have we had such a workforce of brothers and sisters who are retiring in their 50s, who are enjoying better health, who are financially stable and have an abundance of leisure time. It will take great courage but there are many ways to serve God and to share His Word. There's the AIM program for seniors. There's Partners in Progress, where you use English to teach the Bible. There's World English Institute that plans short-term mission trips to teach English by using the Bible. There are correspondence course ministries. There's Vacation Bible School. There's programs like the 9th Street Joy Ministry. You can have a personal Bible study with someone. You can invite a friend to ladies' class or to one of our seniors' meetings. Once upon a time, there was a fire in a small town. The fire department was called, but the firemen couldn't get through to the burning building. The problem was the crowd of people who had gathered to help put out the fire. They all knew the fire chief well. So when the fire broke out, they all wanted to help. Unfortunately, the townsfolk were trying to put out the fire with water pistols. They all stood there squirting their pistols into the fire while they visited with one another. The fire chief, in his frustration, hollered, "What do you hope to accomplish with water pistols?" The people, realizing the urgency of the situation, encouraged each other to squirt harder. Exasperated, the chief hollered at them to leave. "We need firemen who are ready to give everything they've got to put out the fire, even to laying their lives on the line." This wasn't the place for token contributions. This story was originally told by a Danish philosopher, Søren Kierkegaard. He was urging us to realize that discipleship to Christ means much more than token levels of support to the church and God's mission to the world. It calls for wholehearted and total life commitment. 2 Timothy 4:7, "I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith. Now there is in store for me the crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, will award me on that day. And not only to me, but to all who have longed for his appearing." Brothers and sisters, the Bible does not say anything about retirement. So give it your all and keep going until he calls you home.
From a younger man's perspective, the charge that Andy just gave is powerful. There are men and women that I have grown up around my entire life that have sculpted me of who I am. Andy speaks about leaving a lasting legacy. Andy is leaving a lasting legacy. It'll be a year that I've been here starting December 1. And I don't believe there's been a day that I've been in my office and Andy hasn't come and checked on me. That's leaving a lasting legacy. That's an impact that goes beyond these walls. There's not a Sunday morning that I don't see Betty Switzer and she asks me how I am and how proud she is of me. And I know, Dan, maybe you're not in that senior category quite yet, but you're close enough. That man has changed my life. I think of my dad and the impact that he's had on mine and my mother. I pray, young people, that you get to know these senior saints. You want to be successful in life? Learn them. That's where the power is. They will teach us things far beyond what we can learn within these walls. I hope you're encouraged this morning to go and get to know one of them. And seniors, I hope you're encouraged that you get to know one of us. Help us raise our children. Lord knows I need all the help I can get. Amanda needs all the help she can get being my wife. We need guidance and direction. We need that check every morning. How are you today? Have you thought about your +2? Maybe it's encouraging as we exhort you to make a list. List 5 people on each list. 5 people of those people beyond these walls that need God. 5 people. Work down that list. Encourage those people. Be an example to those people. You never know what will happen in their life when maybe you think they're not hearing you and one day they have been listening. And then make a list of the 5 that are no longer here, members of this body who are not as consistent as they should be. And then work down through those lists. Strive to give the greatest news known to man to the world beyond these walls. If there's a need that you have, this invitation is not one that I'm desiring you to come down front, but an invitation that desires you to go out. Beyond these walls, out those glass doors, and be evangelistic for Him, living a life for Christ beyond these walls. At this time, we'll have our invitation song. Would you please stand as together we sing?